Hello, welcome back to this channel, or welcome to this channel. My name is Jackie and I'm obsessed with planners, journals and Hobonichis. Today I have a very special video to share with you. I know I say that a lot, but today is even more special because it is a collab with an amazing woman that I've met here in the planning community on Instagram and YouTube, and it is Cecilia from Scientist Plans. If you don't know her channel, go check her out. She's amazing. She has some incredible videos and she also has some great ideas about Hobonichis, and we share a common love for the A6 size. So we thought it would be perfect to collab to film a video about our A6 Hobonichis. So that's what you are going to see today. I will kind of give you a timestamp so you can know what to expect from my video and from her video as well, because it will be more or less similar. And of course I will leave her channel and her collab video down below in the description box, so go check her out as soon as you finish this one. So I will start talking about my Hobonichi A6 journal journey, or at least some of the ways I've used this Hobonichi in the past, not that long ago, and how I'm using it right now. Then I will move on to my favorite supplies to use with this Hobonichi, and that will lead us to a pen test. Then I will talk about the pros and cons about this size, or better, what I love about this size and what I don't like that much about the A6. And finally, I will talk about some ideas on how to use it. Okay, I'm ready. So you know, if I have a hot beverage here next to me, it means I'll be talking a lot. So feel free to treat this as a kind of podcast and walk around your house and do your chores or plan or journal. And I will do my best to try to let you know when I'm showing something. So if you want, you can look at the camera. And of course, we also have a visitor right here. Vicente loves Hobonichis as well. Okay, so I won't be talking a lot about my journey with the Hobonichi A6. I just want to let you know that it was the first size that I started using the Hobonichi, and when I got it, I was at the beginning of my journey in the planning community, so I had no idea what I was doing. I was just having a lot of fun, and I still am. So yeah, that's all I'm all about with my planners and journals. But I was using it as a journal and it didn't went very well. I was more into rings at the time. I didn't know how to use the layout, and I was very limited by the layouts at that point. I was not as I am right now, that I like to just change things up if they are not working for me. I was also not using any washes or stickers, at least not in the Hobonichi. I was just using a pen, and I didn't know which pen to use, so I didn't like my handwriting on it. It was a hot mess, to be honest. But then I just ripped all of the pages and punched them and started using them on my A6 Giglio Compagna, and that worked really well, and I loved using it that way. So now we are really going down memory lane, because here it is. This is my Giglio Firenze Compagna. It is the black and red, which is one of my favorite combos. This is an A6. And to be honest, just having this in my hands, it really makes me want to go back to this. But the setup is exactly as I left it back in 2017, because I haven't used this anymore. But if I would to go back to rings, I would probably go back to an A6 Compagna or something like that, because I love the A6. So I'm a little bit afraid of opening it, but I just want to see if I can share with you what I did, because I turned my Hobonichi down into pieces. Okay, so I think I can share with you this. As you can see, it was just a mess. I would use this as a work planner. At this point, I was working at university, but I was really busy. I was also having classes for my PhD, but but for that I was using a Malden A5. So this was all about work. Sometimes I would even leave these at work at university. But as you can see, these are Hobonichi pages from an A6 that I just ripped everything, and then I just cutted holes with my hole puncher, and I miss this. And if I ever go back to rings, I would probably do that as well, because I just love the Hobonichi Tomoe River paper. As you know, now I love the layout, and I will probably know how to use it better than I was using back then. But this is how I started actually using the Hobonichi A6, like as a work planner, really functional, just pen and nothing special, messy, horrible hand writing, because I was just, I needed to write very fast. Sometimes I was on the phone with someone, so very functional, and I still love it. I also tried at that point to use the A6 as a journal, but I was just writing and I just didn't like it. I think I used for like 4 pages and never went back to it again. I had no idea what creative journaling or art journaling was. So I was just writing down what happened on a specific day, and sometimes my days were just boring and I was tired and I didn't want to write anything down, and it was just not working. But then on October 2017, I went to the event that kind of changed my whole life. And I know that seems a little bit dramatic, and it is, but it's me. I'm dramatic sometimes, but it's also kind of true. I went to PlannerCon Europe, and there I met a lot of lovely people that were using their Hobonichis as art journals or creative journals. I also went to my first workshop about watercolors, and I started watercoloring the Hobonichi paper, because I remember someone told me that Tomoe River paper could take watercolors, and it was life-changing, and I realized how I was supposed to use that book. After that, that was my life with the Hobonichi A6. I was using it as a creative or art journal. Sometimes I call it art journal, but I feel intimidated by the word art, so I will say creative journal. But I just love it, and sometimes I will branch out and try to use it some other ways, or I will try to use some other size, but I always come back to the A6 for my creative journal. I think it's just perfect for that, at least for my needs. And this year, if you recall, I do have a video setting up this little guy, which was my A6 Hobonichi. This one is the planner. So if you don't know the A6, we have the Hobonichi original, which is the Japanese version, and we have the Hobonichi planner, which is the English version, and the layout is a little bit different, but I won't get into that right now. And I was using this as my work planner, following Scientist's Plans video about how to use the A6 as a bullet journal. And of course I will link that video down below as well, because it's genius and it will maybe work for you. And I love this. I can't look at this very much, or else I will get confused and try to move on to my current system, to the A6 again, because the A6 is always calling me. But I won't be talking a lot, but this is kind of how I was using this for work. So we went from something like this to something like this, so more organized and kind of knowing how to utilize the space around the page better. So I'm really proud of my journey, and this was working really well, to be honest. But I was just missing a weekly layout for work, and I talk more about that in my other video, so I don't want this video to be longer than it already is going to be, so I won't keep talking about this. But I love this system, and I think it could work for a lot of people, but I was missing a weekly layout for me to be able to do some time blocking, to feel more productive. And I think, to be completely honest, I will probably go back to this at one point this year, so stay tuned for that. But for now, for my work, I'm in a Hobonichi cousin, but kind of using the same system. But how I'm actually constantly and daily using my Hobonichi A6 is as this art journal or creative journal. So if you didn't know by now, or if you are new because you came from Scientist Plans video, hello, nice to meet you. I have a lot of different styles, and sometimes I'm more into colorful and kind of kiddish things to put in my journal. Sometimes I'm more into like vintage and minimalist style, so it changes a lot, and I would be trying to figure out and kind of saying that, okay, so this is my A6, I will only do like colorful things. And then I had like my traveler's notebook for vintage stuff, and then I would have another journal for kawaii journaling. But then I realized I don't really have time to keep up with all of those journals, and this is where all my styles can come to rest and to express themselves. So this is one of the styles. A lot of tippings, a lot of things. I like to add here things, ephemera that I receive throughout the day, but of course now during lockdown I don't have a lot of ephemera to add here, so sometimes I will do some watercolors, sometimes I will do collages, sometimes I will add the teas that I'm drinking, and I just have fun with it. And you will see that I have this style, but I also have been really into nowadays to a more vintage collage theme. So here it's still this eclectic style, as you can see, because here on one side I have this more collage kind of vintage style. I don't really like this very much, to be honest, but it's part, you won't love every piece of your journal. And here you have that more colorful kind of kawaii style as well, here a little bit, and also things that I get throughout the day. So this was from a London Gifties washi tape. So here I feel like it is a really reflection of my days and of myself and of what I'm liking at that specific moment, and I just love that so much. So I think that covers how I'm using it right now, and maybe there was a lot of talk. Maybe I will cut a lot of it down when I'm editing, but I hope you enjoy learning a little bit more about my uses for the Hobonichi A6 so far. Now I want to talk a little bit about my favorite supplies to use on my A6 Hobonichi, and you can probably tell by looking at my pages. I love using random pieces of paper. Sometimes they are from packages, sometimes they are from Happy Mail. I also love using printables. Sometimes there are free printables, sometimes they are from Patreon. And this one is from Torta Gialia, this one is from Nicole Josephine. And I will try to leave some resources where you can find free printables to add to your journal. Torta Gialia is one of my favorite blogs to find printables because I love her style. Of course, I also love using washi tapes and some washi stickers because I love the effect that you can create with it, and stamps as well, even though sometimes they will bleed through, as you can see here, because sometimes my ink is not that good, but I like the look of it, so I don't mind the bleeding. And I also have been really loving using coffee stains. So you can see right here that I added to quite a few pages of my journal because I've been just loving adding coffee stains everywhere. But if you really want to see what I love using, I have something right here. Let me zoom you out a little bit. So I have my bowl bag that I recently got, and I recently organized it with the supplies I use the most, so I can very briefly share with you what I actually use on my journal. So as you will see, a lot of stickers and washi stickers right here, and I just love this for collages, especially if you are trying to do a more vintage style collage. And Kita washi, I love it as well. Then here at the back I have random pieces of papers that I find it would be interesting to add to my journal. Postcards and cards from shops and things that would be nice to, that would work nice as tippings. So I have them in this bag. More random pieces of papers. These are like sticker packagings. These came with the stationery selection box, and I just love them, and I know they would be great to add to my journal, so I leave them in here. Dot stickers, because I think they add a little nice touch to every spread. And of course the washi tapes I use the most, and some washes that I still need to open but that I want to use for this season. So that's basically what I use in my A6, my favorite supplies to use with it. And of course fountain pens, because I love using fountain pens in my Hobonichi A6. So Cecilia thought it would be nice for us to kind of share a pen test of our favorite pens to use, and I think this is maybe the most interesting part of our collab, because I'm really into fountain pens and I only use fountain pens in my Hobonichis, and Cecilia uses a Jetstream, so it would be nice if you are into fountain pen, or are thinking about using fountain pen on your Hobonichi, this will be interesting to you. But if you don't like waiting for ink to dry, or if you don't like using fountain pens, she will have her favorites right there in her video, so that's really interesting. Okay, so let's do some pen tests right here in my work planner that I'm not using currently. So I don't have all of my fountain pens in here, and also I don't have all of my inks in here, just the ones I'm currently using, but if you want I can do a video all about that, all about fountain pen and Tomoe River paper. But let me just share with you briefly first the inks. So I really love using this Pelikan Brilliant Black ink, because it's a little bit, it's drier than some other inks, so it won't take that long to dry. So I usually use this with this Kaweco Extra Fine pen. This is the Kaweco Sport. It's not expensive, it's a very good starter fountain pen, and it works really well with Tomoe River paper, and with this ink it won't take that long to dry. I also love using this Pilot Takesumi. This is also a black ink that I use a lot, and I think I have it in my Kakuno and my Pilot Cavalier as well. Then I have a Muji pen that has just a Muji cartridge that came with the pen, so I don't have the ink to show you, but it is here. Oh, and my Platinum Shooting Star also has the Pelikan Brilliant Black in here, the one that is a little bit drier. Then I have these Ferris Wheel Press ink. They are so beautiful. I have two of them, and this is the name I won't be able to pronounce it, so just look here. It's this name, Royal something, and it is a really beautiful kind of magenta, which is in my Ferris Wheel Press fountain pen that we will see very soon. And more recently I added, this is another Ferris Wheel Press, and this is a purple color that I don't remember the name, but I will try to find it, and I have it in this Twisby fountain pen that I got from my fiance for Valentine's Day, and I've been loving it so far. Let's start. Let me just tell you that if you don't want to wait a very long time for ink to dry on your Hobonichi paper, you need to go with the finest tip that you can find for a fountain pen. That's why I find it that the Kaweco Extra Fine works really well with Tomoe River paper. The Kakuno works even better because it's a Japanese tip, so it's even finer than an extra tip, an European extra fine tip. Oh my god. The Cavalier is a fine point, but it works quite well, and the Platinum also is really fine. The point is, I think it's extra fine as well. Yes, it's an extra fine, and it also works really well if you don't want to wait a long time for the ink to dry. But in my journal, since I write at the end of the day, sometimes I will use a more juicy pen right here, especially these two ones, and then I will just leave it opened overnight so it won't smudge anything. But of course, it doesn't take that long to dry. It's just that I write before going to bed, so I just leave my journal opened, but it doesn't take that long to dry, but it takes longer than other pens. So let's start with the juicy ones. So I will start with the BUJO one. I haven't been using it a lot, but it's a very nice and inexpensive fountain pen, and this is a fine point, but to be honest, it writes as a medium, but I don't have any medium here to show you because I'm an extra fine and fine fountain pen tip nib girl. Okay, let me write it down. Oh my god, but it writes so smoothly. I love it. Next, this is a Ferris wheel press, the brush pen. I love this. This is more expensive, but it's such a beautiful fountain pen, and I just love that it really feels like a brush. So I love writing with it because it feels like I'm painting on the paper, and I just love it so much. And this is an extra fine, but you will see that it's not as fine as the Kaweco and the Kakuno. Now the TWSBI, which is the newest addition to my collection, and I've been loving it so much, and I have it with this purple ink from Ferris Wheel Press, as you can see here, because it is clear. And it is also an extra fine. Okay, so let's check the back for our juicier pens right here. As you can see, there is no bleeding through, but of course there is shadow because it will have shadow on Tomoe River paper. Now let's move on to the Pilot Cavalier. This was one of the first fountain pens I got, and I love how it looks. I'm not sure if it's easy to find nowadays, but it's such a beautiful pen. It is a fine as well. Now the Shooting Star, this is a platinum. This was also a gift from my fiance, and it's becoming my favorite. I love the way she writes as well, and I love the name, Shooting Star. Then we have the Kaweco Sport. I love this pen so much. I'm saying that about a lot of them, but it is true, they are my favorite. And this is the Kakuno, one of my first loves and the one I always go back to if I'm in a hurry. And this is an extra fine, and you will see it's the finest of them all. And it is so fine, the point is so fine that sometimes if I press too hard, I will just punch a hole in the Tomoe River paper, especially once my Hobonichi starts getting chunky. So you need to be careful not to press so hard on the paper, but I don't think it's a problem a lot of people will have. It's just that sometimes I like to really press the paper really hard when I'm done writing. And as you can see, no bleeding as well. So these are my favorite pens. I just think they work so well with Tomoe River paper, and I'm always going back to them. If you are a beginner in fountain pen, I would probably recommend the Kakuno, the Kaweco, and probably the BUJO one, especially if you want a more juicy pen, but you don't want to spend a lot of money on them. If you are willing to pay more, the TWSBI, Diamond, and the Ferris Wheel Press pens are just amazing. I'm really enjoying the TWSBI. It's gaining a large space in my heart and in my journal, so I love using this pen so much. I love the clear body. I love everything about it. And I think I love changing the ink to have colorful spreads in my journals. Okay, so I spent a lot of time on the pen test, so I think it's time to move on. Now I'm going to very briefly talk about the pros and cons, or the way I like to do the cons and the pros, because I like to end with a happier note. And for me, it's basically like this. This is a con and this is a pro. So what I mean by that, it's for my personal needs as a work planner, the A6 doesn't work for me because I miss having weekly pages, hourly weekly pages where I can just time block and really organize my day so I can be more productive. So the Kazan is better for that. And for my journaling purposes, the Hobonichi A6 is just the perfect size. I won't feel overwhelmed by having a large page that I need to write down to fill everything up at the end of the day when I'm tired and I just need to put my feelings into pen to relax and sleep, but I don't want to write that much. So the A6 is the perfect journal, perfect art journal for me, perfect creative journal. It's not intimidating. You will fill your page really, really fast, and it looks nice. It is cute. It is portable. It is everything. I just love this so much. But my con would be, as a work planner, it didn't work for me. So as you can see, there are a lot of ways that you can use this journal. And I just want to leave some ideas in here of ways you can use it in ways that I haven't mentioned here yet. Because of course you can use it as a bullet journal or as a more messy functional working planner, as I showed you with my Hobonichi in rings. But you can also use it just as an art journal or as a sketchbook, where you would just take advantage of the Tomo River paper being able to handle a lot of different media, and you would just paint and experiment with, I don't know, markers or things like that. You could also use it as a gratitude journal, but I feel like you can use anything as a gratitude journal, so that's not that interesting. But of course you can use it as different types of journals, and you can use it as different types of planners. But I think some fun ways that maybe I will do that with some Hobonichis from previous years that I haven't finished it or that I haven't used it. I think one nice way would be to tear it apart and use it in rings, as I showed you, or use it as a junk journal. And I think I would love that, because as you can see here, I love adding tippings with things that go beyond the A6 size of the page. So for example, here I added this postcard from Japan, and right here I also added a piece of paper that goes beyond. And I think it would be really nice to transform a Hobonichi that maybe it is from 2018 or like a previous year that you are not going to use it, and kind of reutilize it, transforming it in a junk journal. You could glue a lot of random pieces or scraps of paper that you have laying around. You can maybe try to sew some pages. I'm not sure how that would go, but it would be a nice experiment, and I will probably do that very soon. And I of course will share my experience here. And you could glue some pages together, so you could try to use alcohol markers or something like that. And I think it would be super fun, and it is a fun way to repurpose books that you are not using right now. Another way that I think you could use your Hobonichi A6 is as a kind of reading journal or quotes journal. So I thought I was not going to say like something journal, but I don't feel like this is a very common thing. Of course, reading journals are really popular, but I think they would work really well with the A6, because you could kind of have in this index part, you could have your like reading habits, if you are reading every single day, or how many pages you are reading on a specific day. Then for the monthlies, you could kind of mark down authors' birthdays or special events that you want to read something for. So for example, maybe for I was going with Halloween because I always go with Halloween, but let's say St. Patrick's Day, and you want to read a book that maybe it's around St. Patrick's Day or about St. Patrick's Day. So I think it's nice to have those major events throughout the year and try to find books so you can kind of be in the mood for a specific season or event. You know, I'm all about seasons, even in my reading habits. And then during the days, what I would love to use is, for example, try to find a quote from the book I'm reading or the books I'm reading that specific day to add to that specific day. I hope I'm making myself, I hope you are understanding what I'm saying. But for example, sometimes we will read a book and we will be waiting for like that perfect quote that sometimes you will have just one throughout a whole 200 pages book, but sometimes there are just small things in the dialogues that you like, so it will be interesting to kind of attach that quote to a specific day. So it's kind of gratitude that makes you look at something that happened to your day and see it in a different light. I think a quotes journal where you need to find a quote every single day would be really interesting, and it would probably also be a way to keep you reading every single day, because you will think, oh, I need to find a quote for my journal, and maybe you can combine it with an art journal and maybe draw something or doodle something that is related to that quote, or write about what you are feeling about the pages that you read that specific day. So I think that would be a nice thing to do as well. And now I want to do it. Okay, I think for now, those are the ideas that I have. I'm sure Cecilia will have some amazing ideas, so don't forget to check her video. And finally, I want to finish with a word that defined the Hobonichi A6 for me. And I think that word would be endgame. And I know it sounds a little bit silly and dramatic once again, but I think that's what it is for me, at least for my journal. I can try different sizes, different styles. I can go rings, and I can go with other binding systems or discs or whatever. But for my journal, I always go back to the Hobonichi A6. It is truly the perfect match for me when I'm journaling, and that's why I love it. It is a safe place. I know I can always go back to my Hobonichi A6, and I know it will always bring me joy. It will spark joy every single time. So I think that's it for my part. Don't forget to check Scientist Plan's video. She's really amazing. I love hearing her ideas, and check her other videos as well. Go follow her on Instagram. She's really active on Instagram, way more active than I am. She also has a lot of interesting posts and ideas there as well. And I'm really happy with this collab, and hopefully you are as well. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your kind messages as always. And thank you, Cecilia, for this collab. It was really nice, and hopefully we will be able to come up with new collabs in the future, maybe. Let us know if you want that. So thank you so much, and I will see you very soon. Bye bye.